Now we're going to cover some basic double stick coordination drills, Sinawali type of exercises. Now, a lot of times in the Filipino martial arts, when we refer to double stick, you'll hear a lot of people use the term Sinawali. Sinawali is a term that comes from the province of Pampanga, where my mom is from. And the Sinawali methods were used heavily, according to Guru Dan, by the Macabebe peoples and the tribal warriors that used to live there. Now, Sinawali in and of itself just refers to a weaving pattern. So when I had asked my mom about it, Sinawali is one of the patterns that they might find at the market that refers to a particular design of lace or any other thing that has a particular kind of weaving kind of design. So Sinawali just means weaving type of motions. According to the Bakbakan book on Sinawali, and I would believe this to be true, Sinawali was just the term in Pampanga for their version of Filipino martial arts, their version of Kali or Eskrima or Arnis. They just called it Sinawali. These days it does refer to the double stick usually, or double long weapon, but Sinawali in its prior existence was a complete art that had the single and the double stick, the sword and the blade and the empty hand and all the other things. So it would be kind of like how in today's American martial arts, you know, there's many martial arts that you could find commercially, but a lot of people might just refer to martial arts as karate, whereas what they refer to as karate may not necessarily be the Okinawan karate versions that came from the past. It's kind of taken on a different kind of meaning, but its history is rooted in the Kapampangan Macabebe fighting methods. So anyway, we're going to start off with some basic double stick work. One of the benefits that Guru Dan likes to talk about as far as the Sinawali drills is they are great coordination exercises, and they help develop symmetry between usually our dominant or right side for many of us, our dominant side and our other hand side, or our strong hand and other strong hand side. There's many versions. We're just going to cover some basic versions today. Now, generally when we talk about double weapon, but it can also be empty hand, we have certain kinds of positions. You know, if we're single weapon, we usually pick a lead, and the lead is usually with the weapon hand in front. When we're double weaponed, we still have a lead, but the lead may shift constantly as we move around. We're not ever really going to be square, shoulder to shoulders square and straight on. We still want to have our lead on one side or another, but depending on how we're moving, that may be shifting at any given time. We have two common positions that we use in the Inasano La Costa system. We have the open or Abierta position, and then a closed or cerrada position. But the closed position can be here, chambered underneath. It can be here, chambered up high by the shoulder. There's many different versions. The open version can be up high, it can be low, can have all kinds of different configurations. But the basic premise is I'm either open or I'm closed. So the first one we're going to do is we just call it, these days, Guru Dan is just calling it all kab-kab or pai-pai. Now, kab-kab or pai-pai, the terms just mean fanning type of terms. When I started at the academy in 2003, I believe it was kab-kab was always 3 high and 3 low. So we would alternate 3 high and 3 low. And pai-pai was 2 high, 2 middle, and 2 low. These days, Guru Dan has just said that it's the same thing. So we don't really give a particular pattern the name kab-kab or pai-pai. The term, as we practice it, just means this open, retracting, hitting position. Okay, so the way that we've been doing it at the academy for pai-pai, I've been using pai-pai because it's more of a Tagalog word, but kab-kab or pai-pai are interchangeable. It's just this motion right here. So if I'm in my right lead, my pai-pai is just hitting, usually to the head. It can be eliciting a block and then hitting to the hand. It can be going low and coming up high, but it's this kind of motion here. Now it's really important that we don't get into too much of this, too much like we're drumming. Although that has its place, one of the benefits to the Sinawali is it trains the empty hand motion. So when I'm giving my Paypay motions, my hands should replicate to some extent how I'm going to be using them in empty hands. So my first count, or sometimes I will call this a open 2 count, so just 1, 2, and they both retract. Now we have strikes that come through, and we have strikes that come back. The strikes that go through, sometimes we call it a lob tick or a fluid strike. The ones that stop are sometimes called broken strikes, and the ones that come back are whipping or retracting strikes. Okay, so in this case, for my Paypay, both sticks come back. Okay, so you can just practice this motion. You can do it by yourself. You can do it with a partner. And you just want this body motion where I start to move my shoulders, I start to engage my hips, and my hands always come from a chambered to an extended to a chambered position. And the trajectory of my fists should be punching. Not so much like this, and not so much like this. Okay, so when we're getting our Paypay motions, it's going to be in that way. Okay. The second one that we're going to do today, so this is our first one, our Paypay, or open 2. We also have a version called open 4. Sometimes it's called, I've seen Guru Harley Elmore on his double stick video call this Paypay. Guru Dan usually just calls it X's or Ikis. Okay, so all I'm going to do is, instead of retracting back, I'm going to extend through from my forehand with my right, and then come back with a backhand with my right. So I go 1, 2, that makes 1 X, and then with my other side, forehand and backhand. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is called Ikis or X's. Sometimes it's called just an open 4 count, and sometimes this is called a La Costa 4 count. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you can make the slashes as broad as you like. We can make them all on the horizontal line. I can make them more of an X. I could even make really thin X's so they kind of go straight down. But the motion is still this motion here. If I keep it at about a 45-degree angle 1 and angle 2, right on these X lines, then even from the side, you should see that my hands still start to follow the basic motions that I'd use if I'm parrying, if I'm striking with hammer fists or jabs, or doing other things that way. Okay, so I have my Paypay here, and now I have my Ikis. So X with the right, X with the left, and you keep alternating. Okay? And next time we'll start getting into other variations off of those 2 base drills.